Good morning. This is Mona, and this is my morning view, Fall Edition 2025. It is Memory Monday. So last Friday, I was talking about the possibility of doing Christmas carols or talking about the Christmas story or talking about the Santa Claus ho 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 aspect of Christmas. Or, I had all these ors. What am I going to do? And I did not even get to think about it because I was running, not literally because I still have a boot on my foot. But I was running from the time I left to go to work till I got home after midnight. And then I was up early Saturday and didn't get home until after 9 o'clock, and then up early on Sunday and didn't get home until later. So with that, I didn't even get a chance to even think about the possibility of what I could, and I'm not even talking about the intricate sides of what I'm going to talk about. I'm just talking about a theme, a thought for December. I've always done a theme for December. I'm wondering if I did it one last year. I may have been in the same boat, minus the broken leg. So, what am I going to talk about? So, I was thinking before I turned this on, just briefly, I don't know if that's what I'm going to talk about, but I figure that's what I got in my mind right now, so that's where I'm going to go, was every December, our pastor goes through this thing called Advent. It's these candles up on the stage, and he lights one, and somebody does a reading, and then he talks about the anticipation. It's supposed to be the anticipation of Christmas Day, but it's the anticipation of Christ returning. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Advent. Normally I am in children's church when it begins, because I have children's church on the first Sunday of the month. And so I always miss the beginning, and it's like I don't really know anything about Advent. None of my other churches ever celebrated this portion of Christmas. And the only thing I know about Advent has to do with pagan history, not Christianity. So I haven't dove into Advent on what it is about being a Christian celebration. However, we are doing this Advent thing at church, and so I'm like, okay, I should find out more about Advent. Why is it being celebrated by Christians? And the whole anticipation of waiting, and it's like, okay, do I talk about the anticipation of waiting, as in talking about Advent, or should I talk about redeeming? There was this little girl at our school whose parents are Norse pagan. That's their faith. That's their religion. And she said that all their holidays were stolen by Christians. And I can't argue that. Originally, she had mentioned to her little friend that is both Christian and Jewish, in the sense that her one parent is Jewish and the other one is Christian. And so she's being brought up in both faiths to decide what she wants to do later on. But in a sense, it's Christianity in word and maybe Judaism in word, because I can't see a good Jew allowing his child to be raised something other than Jewish. So I question the validity of the faith, and that it's more traditional. And with Christianity, I mean, when you're looking at more about Santa Claus and ho 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 and all that other stuff, I mean, where is Christ in it? Well, there is Christ in your Christianity. So being able to celebrate both Christmas and Christianity, I mean, both Christmas and Hanukkah at this time of year, I don't know her parents. I don't know how their faith is. So I'm not going to judge them in particular. I'm just saying that I have seen this before where people have claimed both, and I saw neither of their faith being played out. So, you know, in the United States especially, people say, oh, I'm a Christian, and there's no evidence that would convict them of that. So there's that. All right, so getting back to the point of the Advent and how Christians tried to redeem all the pagan holidays. You know, you've got All Hallows Eve, the redeeming of the saints, you know, celebrating the saints and such, and celebrating Christ's resurrection from the dead, or you know, it's somehow a 3-day event type of thing, right? You have Easter, okay, and you have we have the resurrection, and then you have the Easter bunny and Easter eggs, and where does that come from? So there's a lot of pagan. This little girl was not wrong when she's saying that their holidays were stolen by the Christians, because Christians wanted to redeem as they were becoming Christians, as they were leaving their old life, their pagan life, and their Gentile life. Now, mind you, Gentiles and paganism are two different things. They can be the same. You can be a Gentile and a pagan, but you don't necessarily have to be a pagan if you're a Gentile. A Gentile was anybody other than Jewish. Doesn't mean that you were, you know, having faith toward any other gods. All right, so most people had some sort of god that they equated themselves to. Nowadays, not so much. Nowadays, you can celebrate Christmas and not bring Christ into it at all. Just like Thanksgiving. You know, Thanksgiving is thanking God for his provision and doing it with others. And now it's all about Turkey Day. It's the Turkey Day. Let's be a glutton. Let's, you know, have one of those cardinal sins, gluttony, be the aspect of our holiday, Thanksgiving. So holidays in general, I have a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth concerning holidays, as you can tell. But at the same time, I can understand trying to redeem the day. Now, when Christ redeems things, they are redeemed indeed, right? They are redeemed events. But when man tries to redeem things, sometimes it just doesn't work out so well. Sometimes it doesn't work out so well. So we tried to redeem the holiday with the Christmas tree representing life, and the longer days representing life, and Christ coming to give us life. And that's admirable. But look around and see what it has become. We were watching a YouTube video. We watch him quite a bit, this Jerusalem Walker. And we were watching him the other night, and he was showing us Santa Claus's house in the center of Jerusalem, and then going by the stores in the Christian sector of all the blow-up Santa Clauses. And I drive around my neighborhood, and I see all the Santa Clauses. And I don't really see anything about Jesus. Have we lost what we tried to redeem? Did it get out of our hands? Or was it ever redeemed in the first place? And I'm not one to sit there and tell you to celebrate any holiday or not celebrate any holiday, because what is your focus and your focal point of that holiday? So that is what is the important aspect of it in our current life, in dealing with traditions and dealing with this is how it's done, and this is, peace on earth, joy to the world, goodwill toward men. I saw a lot of goodwill this weekend. I went to the Christkindl Mart in out in Sussex, and mainly because we've been to the Christkindl Mart in Nuremberg and even in Ansbach when we lived there, and we kind of miss it. We miss a lot of the German traditions, the Volksmarching that was year round. You had the Christkindl Mart. You had Oktoberfest, of course, that we didn't really participate in that. But we did go to a couple of Oktoberfests because it's almost like a fair. They have rides, they have things like that. So we went with friends just to hang out with friends and such. So the point is that when we went to this Weihnachtsmarkt, there was thousands of people there. Thousands. There was a lot of people there. And I had to be in my wheelchair because I could not walk it. Yes, I can walk, but I could not walk for anything more than 15 minutes. They don't have a whole lot of benches around. They do have some benches, but not a lot. Not a lot of places to sit. So we brought the wheelchair so that we could enjoy it. And people would see me, and they would, if they saw me, they would pause and allow me to go ahead of them. Most people didn't see me. I'm down lower. They're not looking. They're looking straight ahead. They're looking this way. That they're not seeing me. They wanted to step back, and my wheelchair was right behind them. Because it was so crowded. The military has a term, or the Marine Corps has a term, asshole the belly button. So anyways, that's kind of what it was. And in my case, I was like a hole high. So a lot of people just didn't see me. And so if they didn't see me, they didn't realize that they were cutting me off, or that they were stepping back and almost falling into my lap, or whatever it was. And they were, like, oh, and being very, very polite. If they saw me, they held the door. If they saw me, they weren't thinking about themselves. A lot of people were oblivious. A lot of people just didn't see what was going on around them. I was not the only wheelchair there. There was multiple wheelchairs. And then I had some Wheelie Man sympathizers, which meant they were babies in carriages. Strollers. So every time I saw a stroller, I was like, fellow Wheelie Men! Because they knew the plight. They knew the struggle of getting through the crowds. And so knowing that people were kind and generous with their time and space, and the shop owners came out and they'd talk to me, and we'd have conversations, and it was just a really pleasant experience. So it's out there. Jesus is out there. He's out there. We just got to look for it. We got to see it. We have to experience it. Because normally you don't experience that. if you ride in the, I've been all around, and the traffic is horrible everywhere. But New Jersey has a really bad rap for aggressive driving. I don't think it's as bad as DC, but that's because it's a culmination of so many different types of drivers in DC as far as where they're from and how they're used to driving from where they're from could be part of that. But when all we see is the hustle and bustle, the Santa Claus, not the St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas was a true man of God. St. Nicholas was a real man, generous and kind and loving, even if he did punch somebody out and lost his bishopric. He got it back. He got his sainthood back. The point is this, is that when all we see is the commercialism, the Coca-Cola version of Santa Claus, we can get hardened. Or we can join in and add to the frustration and the anger and the I'm sick of people attitude, and all become Grinches. Grinch Day's coming up soon. I gotta find out when. And it's one of those things of, was it redeemed through all that? How do we find peace on earth? How do we find joy to the world? How do we find goodwill to men? And yesterday, my husband and I had an opportunity to bless somebody just a little itty tiny bit in the chaos that is happening in their life right now. And nothing they did. And we were talking about another friend that we want to help out in a small way. They're just small ways. They're nothing. We're not great philanthropists. I'd love to be a philanthropist. But just in little ways, helping out. And it's like, we may have to just skip out on that event, that extracurricular event at church that day for the holiday. We'll skip out to help somebody. Because when it comes down to it, being Jesus happens more outside the church than in. Especially at this time of year when people don't see Jesus because they are bombarded with the Santa Claus. Ho, ho, ho. I've learned to simplify myself through holidays. Do what I can do to keep the traditions of the family together, but not be so crazed about how it's got to be and how it's got to look, because it's not what Christmas is all about. The Grinch's heart grew 10 times that day. Bagu Forest. Yeah. All right. I'm going to let you go with that. It's cold. Blessings, everybody. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow for Tips Tuesday.